Let's see if we are live. And there we go, streaming live on Facebook. Gotta love it when technology works. Yay! Welcome, everybody. My Shift community, it's nice to see you today. My name is Kris Castro, and I work with Marketplace Ministry and community leaders across the globe who love Jesus and want to make a positive impact wherever God has planted them within their sphere of influence. Welcome to my Shifting Through the Messy Middle interview series. We all go through really difficult circumstances, and a lot of times people wonder, how did you get through that? Especially if the situation was really messy. And so this interview series is designed to provide encouragement to people going through their own really messy middle situations, and to show them how others have made it to the other side, and how Jesus shows up to help when you choose to surrender your circumstances to him. So today, my guest is Anna Latshaw. She runs a ministry called Women's Empowerment Uganda. And Anna had always wanted to be a mom and enjoyed staying at home with her kids. She found herself in a messy middle situation shortly after she became a mom of 4 children under the age of 5.5. It was physically, emotionally, and spiritually exhausting. There were times when one child needed to be disciplined, one needed help on the potty, another needed to be nursed, and the other needed a story read all at the same time, and then the phone would ring. One day during that season, Anna remembers her husband coming home from work and feeling completely at the end of herself. She knew she needed time by herself and with God, or else she was going to explode. Her husband kindly took the kids, and she went to her room to have an honest conversation with God about how she was feeling. And it really didn't expect that God would have to say anything that would help, but he did. And from that moment on, God graced it and equipped Anna to parent her 4 girls with joy and peace. So thanks, Anna. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you, Kris. It's a pleasure.
And as all of you know who've been watching my interview series in the past, I ask the same questions every time because I'm always amazed at how the different answers help everyone see that messy middle circumstances happen to everyone, and we all get through them in a unique and different way. So my first question is, what was the hardest part of your messy middle?
Well, kind of like the introduction said, it was just physically exhausting and emotionally, draining. Your kids just need so much from you, and you just only had so many hands, and it was you just felt spent. It was just like everything was required of you, and then some. And not really feeling that I had it. To knowing I didn't, have it to give. There's no way I could meet all 4 of their needs all at the same time, and so it just felt a bit overwhelming, obviously, and also just knowing, it was my responsibility. These are my children. There was no one else that could fill this gap, and for the foreseeable future, that was the responsibility, and so it was just a lot.
So as you were going through that, what was one of the significant decisions that you made during that messy middle time that proved beneficial to you?
So yes, that conversation with God was the key thing. Thankfully, I reaching that one day where I particularly felt knowing that I could go to God in that moment. Really, I didn't feel like there was any other choice, but he was my only hope in that moment. And but even then, not necessarily anticipating that anything could really help. But anyway, basically, I just got in front of him and just said, okay, God, I don't know what to do. And he basically just said to me, well, why did you have kids in the first place? And he was reminding me of the conversation that we had before I had children, which was, okay, God, is this time for me to start having children? And he basically said, well, why not? And so then I knew the answer to that question was, well, just selfish reasons at that point. It was really just the convenience, the inconvenience, should I say, knowing that my life was not going to be the same from there on out, and, and just being willing to go to that next level of selflessness and surrender. And so, I kind of knew that was the decision I was making when I, decided, okay, it's time to have kids. And so he just reminded me of that. And so he was like, okay, so, here you are, you're at the end, you're laying your life down. This is the selflessness that we talked about. And so it was a simple thing, but it just, basically I was struggling because I was still trying to hold on to some semblance of my life, before kids, or, my time, my, this, my that. And to the degree that I was trying to do that, I was struggling. But when I really made a decision in that moment to surrender to, okay, no, this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, because it felt like a bad thing, to be that at the end of yourself, but actually it's a good thing. It's like, this is where we want to get to. This is a good place. And because now when you're weak, I can be strong.
Yeah, it's always amazes me that it takes so much effort for us to get to surrender, but once we get there, we appreciate it. But it takes a lot to get there.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And we always, resist giving up control, but the alternative is so much better when we actually do it.
Exactly. So what would you have done different during your messy middle?
Well, probably just surrendered earlier. But yeah, I mean, I think to a degree I had to come to that point. So I don't know that there was necessarily anything I would do differently. But I'm sure glad that, God met me in the way that he did.
And other than that one conversation with God that you had that was a turning point, how else did you see Jesus show up during your messy middle?
So really just, there was just a supernatural grace that then, seemed to come alongside to be able to parent my children, and to be able to do it with joy, and to be able to have peace. And I think the big thing was, it's very easy as moms to really take on the responsibility yourself to get it right, to be perfect, to kind of have everything under control. And, you can really take on the weight of that for yourself. And that's so oppressive and, impossible to accomplish. And so really just feeling empowered by God to that he was coming alongside me in it, as a mom. It wasn't all on me to be the mom, and that really, as I surrendered to him, he was going to equip me and give me what I needed to, to be an imperfect mom, but his grace is sufficient in the weaknesses. And just knowing that he actually cares for my children, and he has a plan for them, and he's actually more invested than even I am to see them walk in the plans and purposes that he has for them. And so to just really know that I just really need to trust him, in the middle of the messes that come with being parent, and the different stages that your kids go through that are messy as well. And and you, in the moment, you could, if you're putting the weight on yourself to have these perfect children, then you could very easily take on just condemnation and shame and guilt and everything. But actually, instead, just knowing that there are messes, and it is a journey that you're going on, and that God is the one who's faithful to basically get you where you need to go, and get your children where they need to go. It just, it just takes the weight off, and there's just more grace, and you're not so disillusioned in the moments that look messy, and you just got hope and faith for the future that God's just faithful to get us through.
And so what's the scripture that you kind of held on to during that time that represents what you learned or how you got through it?
So I think two come to mind. So the Luke 17:33 that says that whoever seeks to save his life will lose it, and the one who loses his life will gain it or preserve it. And so I just really have seen the truth in that, that it's when we lay our lives down and really, and allow our life to be an offering and to serve others, that there's so much richness and so much wealth that gets added back to you. And so yes,
you said there were two. Was there a second or just that one?
Truth in that throughout my life. And then the second is Psalm 73:26. It says, my heart and flesh may fail, but you are the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And it goes on to say that, therefore, as for me, the nearness of God is my good. And so that's a real life verse for me, because, that was the reality. My heart and flesh was failing in that moment, but I found that there was a supernatural portion of strength as I yielded to God in that moment that, I could never have come up with him on my own. And also just the reality that his nearness is my good. He's always with me. And so it's always good.
And so as we wrap up, my final question is, what wisdom would you share with the people that are listening about how your entire situation has positively impacted your life today?
I think just the reality that, God is with you, and that he just takes the most normal life, and if it's surrendered to him, he'll do extraordinary things with it. And you mentioned about the Women's Empowerment Uganda ministry, and right in the middle of having my 4 young kids, God gave me an opportunity to get connected with Uganda and to help birth a ministry called Hands of Love USA, that was basically just supporting a ministry there in Uganda that was rescuing orphaned and abandoned children and schooling them and raising them up as leaders. And then there was several other things involved with their vision, with women's empowerment and marriage conferences and youth conferences and pastor and leader training. So it's a really big vision. But so subsequently, after getting Hands of Love USA started, I got involved with the women's empowerment side of that, and have been taking teams for the last 10 years over there to do these women empowerment conferences. And just unbelievable opportunity to be used by God and to step into things that I never anticipated I would have the opportunity to do, speaking in front of large groups of people. And, and I just was not that person that you would think would, go after that or be the right person for that. And so just really just a beautiful thing, when you truly just surrender your life to God. He just wants our yes and, our willingness, and he does incredible things. And, I just really see my life like the little boy giving his 2 fish and 5 loaves. And, and then we just do that. We just give what we got. And it's just unbelievable what God can do. And here I was maxed out thinking, I didn't have anything else to give, which I didn't in and of myself. But then even in the midst of that demanding season, he still allowed me to birth the ministry. So unbelievable.
Absolutely. We can do all things through Christ.
Yes, it's so true. It's totally miraculous and supernatural, but he does it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for your time. And for those of you that are watching the free Facebook Live, as soon as this ends, I'll go ahead and I'll put Anna's contact information so that you can get a hold of her if you want to. You're not having a 2020 team go to Uganda because of the pandemic, but my guess is you're probably going to do it next year. So if anybody's interested, any of the ladies are interested, they can get a hold of you to learn about mission trips.
Yeah.
And if you want to see the other messy middle interviews, you can go to my blog, and that's begintoshift.com/blog. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.